Hi, I'm Old Norse Specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. Today, on my Patreon-supported YouTube channel dedicated to topics in Norse language and myth, I'm going to talk a little bit about what our real Old Norse sources say about Sleipnir, Odin's eight-legged horse. So Sleipnir is a little bit like the tree Yggdrasil, and hopefully, if I remember, I'll be able to come back at the end of this and talk a little bit about why their names are interesting vis-a-vis one another. But one way in which they're similar that I think is interesting is that both are mentioned in the Poetic Edda kind of as asides, like we should know what they are without necessarily much being said. For example, stanza 44 of Grímnismál, Odin says, Askr Yggdrasils, hann ötstar viða, en skíðbladnir skippa, Odin Osa, Sleipnir Jóa. The ash tree of Yggdrasil is the best of trees, Skíðbladnir of ships, Odin of gods, Sleipnir of horses, etc., etc. Also, Garmur, Hunda, Hauka, what's the Hoabrok, yeah, which is the hawk of Rolf Crocky. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to remember the stanza from memory. Then there is a riddle in Eddic format in the saga of Hervor and Heidrek, which my translation has been published by Hackett Publishing Company, when Odin says, Hver eru þeir tver, hverir eru þeir tver, tíu hafa höttar, augu þrjú og ein halla. Heidrekr konungur hygdu at gotu. So who are those two who have 10 feet, 3 eyes, and 1 tail? And the answer to this riddle is Heidrekr konungur. He says, guess the riddle. Heidrekr says, Það þó Odin ríður Sleipni. That's when Odin rides Sleipnir. So 10 feet because Sleipnir has 8, 3 eyes because Odin has 1, and 1 tail because, of course, only Sleipnir has 1. We also get a little bit of a hint about the birth of Sleipnir in Hyndluljóð or Völuspá and Skama, stanza 40. Ól úlf Loki við Angrboðu en Sleipni gat við Svadilfara. Loki had, as a child, a wolf with Angrboda and Sleipnir with Svadilfari. Now, interestingly, that verb used with Svadilfari, geta, is typically used of fathers, so that makes Loki look like the father here. But it was pointed out to me, it's a general word to use, in a review by the late and mourned Kari Ilangata of University of Indiana at Bloomington, that geta can be used in Old Norse, mostly against and opposition to later Scandinavian languages with mothers and fathers. So this doesn't necessarily mean this is part of a version of the story where Loki is the father, because in the story as we really know it in the Prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson, of course, famously, Loki is the mother. So let's take a look at that story right after a quick word from my friends and partners at Grimfrost. All Alright, so the story is pretty well known, but I want to dwell on a couple details here that are fairly seldom recounted. So a smith comes to the gods when they've made Midgardr and Valhall. So this is just what the story specifies, is after they've made Midgardr, so this realm that I'm in right now, where human beings live, as well as Valhall, Odin's hall. And he offers to make them, quote, borg og þrim misserum svogoða að trú og orug veri fyrir bergrisum og hrímþorsum þótt þeir komi inn Midgard. So a wall in 3 half years, fairly common unit of time in Old Norse, so a year and a half. So good, so good in faithfulness, and so safe, secure would it be for the mountain giants and the ice giants, though they should come in through Midgard. So it would be basically safe from the enemies of the gods, who are variously called all kinds of different terms that I usually prefer to translate as anti-god than giant, although these compound terms are sort of better known with giant, mountain giant, ice giant, even if they get in through Midgard. So Ásgarður is somewhere above Midgardr, where we live. It's not necessarily clear that it's in the sky. It seems to be accessed from Midgardr, so it might be on a high mountain peak, like, I'm pretty sure that's actually Longs Peak right behind me. One of the highest peaks in northern Colorado, one of the most visible peaks in most of Colorado. So that'd be an excellent candidate for Ásgarður if these stories were generated around here. All right, but this smith wants, in exchange for these things, the sun, the moon, and the goddess Freyja. So often Freyja is craved by the enemies of the gods. So the gods counter that he has just one winter. Now, winter is a misseri, it's a half year. The older Norse calendar has 2 seasons or half years rather than the 4 that we're more accustomed to. So winter starts in late October. So in 2023, the way this is calculated, it would have started on the 28th of October. So this is still fairly early winter from a Norse perspective as I'm recording this. And then summer starts in late April. So it'll start on the 25th of April in 2024 if we use the Old Norse reckoning. So the gods countered that he has one winter to make this wall, not 3 half years, not a winter, a summer, and a winter. And he gets nothing if any part of it is missing on the first day of summer, the half-year summer, so sometime in late April from our perspective. But the smith counters to their counter that he has to have the assistance of his stallion, Svalilfari, and Loki backs him in this request. So they say, okay, you can have your horse, but you've got to do this in one half year, one winter, October to April. So he begins the first day of winter, Norse reckoning winter, with the horse bringing loads of stones. Quote, the horse did twice as much strength work, Threk Birki, as the builder. The gods are nervous about the progress that they're seeing, but the builder has ensured that, quote, at kaupi þeirra voru sterk vitni og morgsöri fyrir því að jotnum þótti ekki tryggt að vera með osum gríðalaust ef Thor komi heim, en þó var hann farinn í austurveg að berja troll. So the builder has ensured that there were strong witnesses to their bargain and many oaths, because the Jotnar, the quote-unquote giants or anti-gods, did not think that it was safe to not have a truce with the Aesir gods if Thor would come home. But Thor was then gone on the east, fighting trolls, which are, bad supernatural beings that include the Jotnar. This is the first time, as I recall, reading the story in Snorri, that it's clear that the builder is a Jotun, and a nice reminder that these beings interact with the gods in a pretty normal way, sometimes don't always have antagonistic battlefield relations with them, although obviously they don't trust one another. So 3 days before the Norse summer starts, the gods get together and discuss how nervous they are about the progress. It looks like he's maybe going to get this done by the first day of summer. And they agree that losing Freya and the sun and the moon would be a huge problem, and they don't want to do it, and they agree that it would all be Loki's fault. So they threaten Loki with death if he doesn't stop the builder. So that night, the builder's out getting stone with the stallion Svadilfari, and a mare leaps out of the forest at Svadilfari and squealed at him, Hrein við. Here's a little of this account in Old Norse. En hesturinn kendi what hrossi þetta var, þó udisk hann og sleit sundur reipin og hljóp til merarinnar, en hon undan til skógar og smíðurinn eftir og vil taka hestinn. En þessi hross hlaupa alla nótt og dvelsk smíðin þó nótt og eftir daginn varð ekki svo smíðað sem fyrr hafði orðið. Og þó smíðurinn sér að eigi mun lokið verða verkinu, þó fyrisk smíðurinn í Jotunmóð. En Sleipnir svo það til vís að þar var bergrissi kominn, þó var ekki þurft eyðunum, og kolluðu þeir og Þór, og jafn skjótt kom hann, og því næst fór og loft hamarinn Mjolnir. Galt hann þó smíðarkaupið og ekki sól eða tungl, heldur synjaði hann honum að byggja í Jotunheimum, og lausta til fyrsta hog, hausinn brotnaði í smón móla og sendi hann niður undir Niflheim. En Loki hafði þó ferð haft til Svadilfara að nokkru síðar bar hann fjöll. Það var grótt og hafði 8 fötur og svo hestur bestur með góðum og mónum. So here it becomes clear that Loki is the mare that leapt out of the forest, because when the stallion realized what kind of horse this was, he went mad. Udisk, this is actually the same root as is in the name of Odin, whose name contemporaneously in Old Norse looks like the Mad One. He went mad, went Odr, and he broke asunder the ropes, the reins, and he leapt, ran toward the mare, and she ran away into the forest, and the smith chased after and wanted to catch the stallion. But these horses ran all night, and so the building was delayed that night. And after, during the day, there was not as much made as there had been made on days before. All right, Smith is way slower in building this without his strong stallion. And when the builder sees that he won't be able to finish the work, he goes into a Jotunmóður. So the rage of the anti-gods, which is apparently a very distinct thing. So, because it allows the Aesir, who did not recognize him as being one of their enemies somehow, who knows what exactly thought he was. It says when the Aesir saw for certain that there was a mountain giant come in, that a mountain giant had come in, then their oaths were not honored, because apparently they don't have to honor their oaths to these guys, although they seem to Loki, who's already put one of them anyway. And they called to Thor, and immediately he came, and the next thing, the hammer Mjolnir was in the air. So Thor paid him the price for the building, not the sun and the moon, rather he denied him the ability to dwell in Jotunheim because he killed him, and struck the first strike when when the skull of the builder broke into a small crumbs, and he sent him down under Niflheim, i.e. killed him, sent him to hell. But Loki had such relations with Svadilfari, the stallion, that a little bit later he bore a foal. It was gray and had 8 feet, and that horse is the best among gods and men. This whole thing about Sleipnir being really the best horse comes up a lot. Snorri even says it again in Gilbeginning when he lists the horses of the gods. He starts that list off by saying, Hestar Básana heita svo, Sleipnir bestur, hann og Odin, hann hefur 8 fötur. The horses of the gods are named so as follows. Sleipnir is the best, Odin owns him, he has 8 feet. Sleipnir also comes up again in the Prose Edda at the death of Baldur, because he is ridden by someone other than Odin then. Þó var tekinn Sleipnir, hestar Óðins, og leiddur fram, og steig Hermóður, og þann hest og hlaupði braut. So Sleipnir was led forth, the stallion of Odin, and Hermóður, one of the great heroes of Valhall, got onto the horse, mounted up on that horse, and ran off. He rides 9 nights, of course, into hell, as you'd expect, 9 being such a significant number. What does the name Sleipnir mean? Potentially something like the one who travels smoothly, who goes slipperily over rocks. Sleipur in modern Icelandic means slippery or smooth, and it can be used in kind of a complimentary context. You say ég sleipur in a language that you're good at, like fluent. Ég sleipur í ensku, I'm fluent in English, like I slip easily through English. So kind of see a sense of smoothness from this root. The ultimate root is Proto-Indo-European slay, with S mobile, meaning the S shows up in some branches and not others. Cognates include Latin limox, meaning slug, and ultimately English slip, which is actually a borrowing from another Germanic language, Dutch. But interestingly enough, in Dutch and German and even Icelandic, the cognate verb, German schleifen, Dutch slepen, Icelandic slipa, means sharpen, right? Because when you have a knife on a whetstone, you're making it smoother, you're slippery, right? So it's not, the burrs aren't catching on the whetstone. It's a curious fact that the name of the tree Yggdrasil looks like it should be the name of this horse, because Ygr is a name of Odin and Drasil means horse. So what's Odin horse? Well, Sleipnir. Some people have interpreted the name Yggdrasil as being kind of a joke about the tree, that it is Odin's horse because he rode it, because he hung from it. Anatoly Lieberman interprets this rather as being Yggdrasil not actually being originally the name of the tree, because you notice it's usually in the Poetic Edda called Yggdrasils askr, the ash tree of Yggdrasil. Anatoly Lieberman, you can find this article in his book In Prayer and Laughter, which I recommend to any serious student of Norse myth, takes Yggdrasil as being an old name for Odin and Sleipnir together as a common entity, perhaps related to the wild hunt. And so the ash tree of that entity, Odin and Sleipnir together, Yggdrasil, is originally not named Yggdrasil, but later this term Yggdrasil for the sort of joint Odin horse being is forgotten and applied to the tree exclusively. I think that's as good of an explanation as any for that strange name, but interesting and worth noting anyway. Check out, obviously, the work of Anatoly Lieberman for a more thoughtful explanation of that than I give in 30 seconds in a YouTube video. But I do try to give thoughtful explanations of things in YouTube videos, so thank you to those of you who support this channel on Patreon, who put up with the way that I film in beautiful but windy places without a microphone, because nothing seems to work with iPhones anymore. And thank you to those of you out there buying my books. Now, from eminently beautiful Colorado, right now, the most beautiful place in the world. You can guess my sappy reason for saying that. I'm wishing you all the best.